If you can push like 20 to 30% more and you can lift heavier weights and you can be in there for a little bit longer and not want to skip abs because you have it in your system, I'm like, awesome. Like that's, to me, like that's great. It's, in my personal opinion, it's on the top 5 supplements like for most people.
Our fall shred challenge starts in just 1 week. So if you want to shred off unwanted fat while building new muscle and have the chance to win thousands of prizes and a guaranteed t-shirt for bettering yourself through this challenge, don't miss out. Apply in the first link in the description of this episode. You can learn more about what our coaching is, as well as how to get started with the challenge. Don't miss out on this. It's our biggest challenge yet with guaranteed results. And this is a fantastic time to fall back into fitness and see the results you deserve after summer. Now let's jump into the episode. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fit, Healthy, and most of all Happy podcast. I'm your coach and host, Josh, here with
his co-host and co-coach, KG, and I'm in the house.
This is Motivation Monday, so sit back, relax. We're going to answer some of your favorite questions, share some fire, share what's on our mind, showcase a client who's been crushing it, and most importantly, answer your questions. We're going to jump into it with the primary question of the week, and this is one I get asked quite often, and that is, what does pre-workout actually do? Does it work and should I take it? So I used to have no conception as well what pre-workout is. If you're not someone who takes it, you might be like, I don't really understand what it is or why it makes sense, or I want to stay away from it because it seems crazy and I've just heard crazy things, or maybe you've tried it once and you've taken too much of it and didn't appreciate it. Maybe that left you feeling not the greatest, or maybe you're someone who takes it regularly. Regardless, I want to try to really get into this and explain not only what it is, if it works, but also the breakdown of the ingredients you want in your pre-workouts, as well as how to identify if you actually have a good pre-workout. So essentially what pre-workout is something you take before a workout to get you motivated and fired up for the gym. Most often the core ingredient of this will be caffeine, because caffeine is going to give you energy, it's going to get you a little bit fired up, and it's going to put you in a great mindset as well to really focus in on the gym. There are some stim-free pre-workouts, but they're much less common. So in general, when you're looking at caffeine for a dose pre-workout, you want about 100 to 300 milligrams. Studies have shown that for actual physical benefits outside of the cognitive benefits, so for you to actually perform better physically, you do need to take larger amounts of caffeine at once, likely in more the realm of like 250 to 500 milligrams. Now, you want to be hesitant before you do that, because caffeine does have its drawbacks. Having too much can cause you to feel anxious. It can cause you to feel really jittery. If you've had too much coffee, you might be aware of that feeling. So that's where this is a little bit of a tipping scale and something you need to be aware of. I personally, when I do take pre, I only have 1 scoop of C4, which is only, I believe, like 125 to 150 milligrams of caffeine. So it's nothing too crazy in there. It's nothing too nuts, if you will, but I feel like it's enough to kind of like give me that little bit of a caffeine buzz, get me aware that I'm in the gym alongside some of the other ingredients that come with it. If you are someone who doesn't really take caffeine anywhere else, you could build up to a higher tolerance. And a lot of people, some more intense pre-workouts will have 300 or 400 milligrams of caffeine per scoop. This would be a very high amount. And if you go in and just take this, you're probably not going to feel the best. So that's going to be something you want to avoid. So I recommend, if you do buy a pre, like even take a half scoop, see how it feels, see if you feel it all. And once again, be aware of the drawbacks of caffeine. If you're doing this at 5, 6 p.m., even if you can fall asleep after having a coffee, it's still going to have effects of you. The half-life of caffeine is quite long, so you need to be really aware of that. I believe it's like 8 to 12 hours. I can't remember exactly. You could Google it to get the exact figure, but it is quite long, the half-life of caffeine. So there's still going to be traces of that in your system, and that's going to be counterintuitive to you sleeping. So I personally choose not to take pre after about like 12, which is definitely like pretty early for some people, but that's just a reality for me. Secondly, would definitely be beta alanine. I'd say that's the second biggest and best ingredient in a pre-workout. And the beauty of beta alanine is there's actually been proven benefits towards it. So outside of just cognitive, there are physical benefits, but to get them, you need to be in the 6 gram plus range, which is quite a lot of beta alanine and can be very hard to actually take. And most pre's won't be actually supplemented with that. And if you're like, what the heck is beta alanine? Basically, it's something you put in your pre and it makes you feel a little bit jittery, really alert, and tingly, and maybe a little itchy. That's what beta alanine is. So if you've ever taken it, that's what that effect will be. Some people hate this feeling. If you do, avoid beta alanine in your pre-workout. That's totally fine. You can just not have it, don't need it, avoid it. But if you're someone who likes it, even such as myself, there are some physical benefits as well as cognitive benefits. So you're gonna wanna make sure you have that. Next up would be citrulline malate. I'd say these are the three biggest components of a good pre-workout. And this is really good for blood flow, nitric oxide production, and just in general, as you have more blood flow, you'll get better pumps. So if you're actually having like 6 to 8 grams of this, you'll be totally in a good spot to get an increased pump, to get benefits of that. This is a more expensive ingredient, so you'll notice most pre-workouts don't have it. And an easy way to tell if you have a high quality pre-workout a really crappy pre-workout is if you see the words proprietary blend on there, because proprietary blend just means they're mashing up all these things. They're not telling you how much of each is in there. And it's a really lazy way to do it. And unfortunately, like most people will be like, hey, we came out with the Fit Healthy Happy pre-workout, and they'll just white label it, which just means it's something that's made wherever. We'll call it China, and then we'll just put our logo on it and we'll sell it to you for a bunch of money because we're influencers. And it's just a sad reality. Some people do make great products, but it takes way more to self-research, self-taste, do all these things. So be really aware of white label products, especially if there's like an influencer you like and they put their name on it, or people that have like no business even being in supplementation, just releasing supplements. It's probably not the best quality stuff. So avoid the proprietary blends. That's one thing that you always want to be aware of. And you can actually see the dosing of what's in there now that you're aware of like the big 3 things you want to be aware of for a pre-workout. Really good pre's will also have creatine in them. Really good pre's will also have like taurine and all these other extra things that like aren't as heavily researched, but can still have some degree of benefits. But most generally, it's the caffeine that you're looking for in there. And you might just say, well, Josh, can I just have a coffee before the gym? And absolutely you can. There's nothing wrong with just doing that. Sometimes we'll have like an energy drink every blue moon. But even with pre-workouts, one thing I like to caution is if you start taking like 300 to 400 milligrams of caffeine per workout, and you do that consistently for months and months, like your tolerance is going to be so high that you're going to kind of need that. So you always want to make sure to kind of like pull back, take a week off it, try to dose down. Even for myself, I try to limit that temptation, and I'll try to do no pre most of the time. And then if I do, I'll do that really small amount. And then if I had like the worst sleep in the ever and I had to have a huge lift, or we did a powerlifting meet, that's where I'll whip out the big guns and I'll have like 300 milligrams of caffeine, I'll have some extra beta alanine, I'll go about it there. So that's my long take, and a little bit sciencey, yes, but now at least you're pretty aware of what it is. And to the question of are there drawbacks, I would say caffeine, as great as it can be, alongside other things, too much of anything can be a bad thing. So if it's affecting your sleep, if it's causing anxiety, if you have a dependence, I would really work to avoid it. But in general, like a pre-workout, as long as you're having a reasonable amount, can be a nice boost, especially on days where like you're not feeling it, you're not as fired up, or you want to have a really good workout.
Yeah, like I've even personally experimented in every way with pre-workout, right? So I'd have the times where I'd have 300 to 400 milligrams, and like that was my thing. Now, obviously, the bad thing about that is I became dependent. There was times where I just never felt it, and it would kind of just be like another thing. So you're just like spending all this money for like really not many benefits because you just get used to it. And then if there was a time where I ran out or I just like forgot it, it would be hard to work out. It'd be like forgetting all my workout gear. I'd be like, I can barely do this. And then experimented with like no pre-workout, which to me was like, it was okay. And the good thing about that is, like Josh was mentioning, that little bit of a break where you just like kind of reset the system essentially. And then now experimenting just with like doing it on the days where I really need it, right? Like, you know, baby's up and it's been a bit of a rougher sleep, or I get to bed later, I was out with friends, or whatever the case is, or like just an insane leg day where I'm like, you know what, let's go, I need this extra boost. Like to me, that's the best way to utilize pre-workout, is like those times where you really kind of like need it and it's like a nice little boost. But I'd say a lot of people, and I've had this discussion with some clients, like they'd say, hey, it's like earlier in the morning, it's harder for me to get motivated, like I need that extra boost, like what do you recommend to get motivated? And obviously, you know, like music's great and like motivational videos are great and all this other stuff, but I'm like, hey, if I can get like a nice little boost from, you know, 150 to, you know, 200 or so grams of milligrams of caffeine from the pre-workout, I'm like, hey, why not, right? Like, as long as you don't become addicted, as long as you don't like rely on it, and like you can never work out without it. To me, like, if you can push like 20 to 30% more, and you can lift heavier weights, and you can be in there for a little bit longer and not want to skip abs because you have it in your system, I'm like, awesome. Like, that's, to me, like, that's great. It's, in my personal opinion, it's on the top 5 supplements, like for most people, but obviously listening to those drawbacks. And of course, like Josh said, paying attention to those things within a good pre-workout, because even looking back on one company, I just remember like they would use the cheapest things in the world to put it in there, charge like $60 a tub, proprietary blend, and like they make so much money because they're using like very, very cheap stuff, and then most people get ripped off. Or there's like companies with these fat burners that have a bit of caffeine, and you just have to be careful, right? And I like what Josh said about C4, and I even just ordered some myself because I was like, I don't have as much discipline to order like the higher caffeine stuff and then say I'm only going to do half a scoop. Like I did that with batch 27, which is a great pre-workout, but the C4 to me is like great. It's been around for years. It's tried and true. So that's my little take on pre-workout as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of good ones, and you can even single dose the ingredients. Like you can buy just beta alanine, it'll be flavorless, so that'll be a little bit weird, but you could self mix it. You can do caffeine pills if you don't want to do that. You could avoid it altogether. You could do caffeine, and also it's really important, like it's a supplement, so it's supplemental to everything else, like good training, good rest. And if you're just like nuking your rest and taking pre, you're just putting this weird vicious cycle that's not going to be beneficial to you. And if you're someone who's already having several coffees in a day, like you don't want to go past a threshold of reasonable amount of caffeine for you. And you can Google like your weight, your age, and kind of what would be a reasonable expectation of caffeine, and you'll quickly see that you could go over that with 1 scoop of pre-workout. So that is where you do want to be aware of that total amount in a day, because if you get to those high numbers, that's where you can get into issues and some safety concerns, and like I said, like a lot of anxiety, jitterness, inability to sleep. So you really do want to avoid that. But we do hope that was helpful. We like answering supplementation questions, and there are a ton of great ones out there. Just read labels and read online what's researched well, and then of course taste is always a factor as well. But that was a really fun question, so we were happy to answer that. And now we're going to go ahead and jump into our favorite quotes of the week. So what's yours, Kyle?
So this week mine's a bit different, but it is, don't forget to dance with the one that brung you. So this I actually heard on a money podcast, the Money Guys, and they were relating it to fitness. So what they meant specifically with their example was like, a lot of times people, they see make this mistake where they'll do something for a certain amount of time, they'll get to that point, and then they'll just completely forget about it, right? They'll just say, hey, I've reached this goal, now I'm going to completely switch it up, right? So they said people would reach like savings goals, and then they would end up saying, all right, it's time to gamble. It's time to do single stocks. Let's invest in this. And they really forget about like what got them to that previous point, the person they brought to the dance, right? And I thought this was pretty applicable to fitness. And that's why I like kind of comparing the two, because we see a lot of similarities, right? So people will reach a specific goal in fitness and then completely forget about what got them there and say, you know what, there's this new fad, there's this new diet or new approach, I'm going to try it. And they end up making mistakes. They end up failing. Of course, there will be failures. You have to kind of go through that to see what works and like what works best for you. But it's just a very, very common mistake. Like it's kind of relatable, right? And, it's just a good reminder to stick with like the core of what's worked for you and then add in little different things. Like I'll always say you can't get the same results over and over. Like you do have to switch things up at a certain point, but you can't just completely get rid of like what's worked for you. So if you've reached a certain goal, strength training, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to go all in on cardio and like only do that. You have to maintain the core of what's worked, the core of like what got you there, and then kind of just make that switch long term. So that's going to be my quote, bit of a different one, but just wanted to relate it to a bit of fitness, bit of finance, and hopefully it makes sense to you in one way or another.
Yeah, even we watched the new Biggest Loser documentary that just came out. I forget the actual title of it. And we're actually going to talk about that for the Thursday episode. So if you haven't seen that, maybe watch it. It might spike your curiosity, but it's really interesting because I remember watching that show as a kid, enjoying it, eating a bunch of snacks while watching it. And like a lot of different thoughts there, but I noticed most of those individuals obviously was very radical. It wasn't from a position of sustainability. So like they did a study where 13 of the 14 gained pretty much all the weight back. back, which obviously is quite sad. But it was even interesting hearing the individual reflect how it began to happen. And I noticed he'd say things like he wouldn't go to the gym for a bit, he stopped weighing in. And it's really easy to feel like we're at this end point so we can just unload all the things that have worked and have got us there. But evidently it's the basics that it's so easy to feel like you're too good for, but the basics that you always need to do. And we'll talk about it more on Thursday, but the one trainer even said, like, if you are overweight and you're battling to lose weight, like, you'll always have that monkey on your back. And I think it really reaffirms how, like, fitness is a lifestyle. It's something you need to be consistent with. You really need to make it work within your schedule without being extreme, without these crazy things. And we'll talk more about it there. But to this point, it's just the same, like doing those fundamentals. Like, I've been doing this 10 plus years. You'd think I probably wouldn't need to weigh in, and my weight doesn't fluctuate very much. I'm usually between 214 and 218. Like, I'd say I'm leaner when I'm towards 214, then I'm a little bulkier towards 218, but it's super, super minuscule. But I still weigh in every single day. I still make an effort to weigh in every single day. I still track my food. I still go to the gym. I still always am following my routine. Like, it's just so easy to think you're advanced and you can avoid those things, and you'll take a break from logging and you don't need to rest as much and you don't need to be in the gym 5 days. You'll just go 3, something like that. And it's amazing, like, as you start cutting those corners and looking for these other exotic, crazy things, people will start to really undo a lot of the progress and success they've had. So I think that is a really good quote. And I remember actually hearing that part of the episode as well, which is pretty cool. But for my quote, we have, discipline is remembering what you want tomorrow more than you want right now. I think that sums up a lot of discipline, a lot of success. It's being able to delay gratification. And there's like a marshmallow test with kids where they could say they could have 1 marshmallow now, or like they could have 2 if they waited a certain amount of time, or 4 or something like that. And you could kind of see the willpower of those kids. And if you're someone who's even really tempted as well with those things, it's really important you set goals or reminders as to why it's important for you. Because if you only kind of want it, it'll be a lot easier to cave in and take that marshmallow. But when you want to have success, you got to remember, as tasty as that late night bite could be, to say, I'm going to pass that by, to do those basics of like tracking your food, even if you're busy or you got other stuff going on, or saying no to the dessert, or getting in the gym and still getting it done. So I think, once again, it's easy to see, like, to avoid looking at discipline and be more fixated on motivation and extreme efforts and crazy things like that. But it's really just often those little decisions, those small little moments that make all the difference, right? Like, you start to tell yourself, I'm going to skip a workout. I need a break right now. And then you realize, like, no, I need to do my workouts. If I miss this, I'm going to miss one for the week. So this is what I want more for tomorrow. So I'm going to do it today anyway. So having that mindset, and I think remembering this quote, can be a huge leg up and really carry a lot of weight.
Yeah, honestly, like, I would say that this alone, between like just the right habits and discipline, I think is what separates the people who see results and then the people who don't. I know it's like easy to talk about everything else and tracking and hitting your workouts and all that stuff, but like, it always comes down to that discipline. And it's funny, like, I've mentioned this before, but so many people mention stuff like, oh, it's your job, or like, you know, it's easy when you have this, and they'll always come up with something, but they don't realize, like, there's so many things within my life that I don't want to do. And like, I always keep track of that. I think, you know what, like, when I get into the car, it'd be so fun to just pump music. All right, let me just do 20 minutes of the podcast and then I'll pump a bit of music. Like, there's a lot of examples when I look at my day to day where it's just like, I would love to take the easy road, and you know, very rarely do I, but it's like really important to pay attention to those moments and just say, you know what, I'm going to be stronger than that. Like, this isn't going to help me. I'm going to make the right decision. I'm going to hit the same breakfast every morning. I'm going to avoid hitting the snooze button. And like, it's those decisions day to day, like the 20 to 30 actions where you say, you know what, instead of taking the easy road, I'm going to choose what I actually need to do, is what actually is going to get you the results. So yeah, just like right now, I find within the world, like, it's just so easy to take that like shortcut, to go through that drive-through, to skip that workout, to just like not do what's actually good for you. And then people wonder, like, why am I not seeing change? It's because of all these things. Like, you're just not disciplined. So yeah, it's something we're passionate about. Make those changes. It's not going to be easy. Like, you're not going to just one day say, you know what, I'm going to change everything. But one by one, you can become a disciplined person and see guaranteed results from the habits that you create. So yeah, I thought that quote was great. And on that note, what I've been thinking, like, something that I'm kind of passionate about is, like, I see a lot of common mistakes within the gym, right? It's not about form. Yes, there are a lot of form issues, but like, over time, those can work itself out. I see like when it comes down to it, a lot of people taking shortcuts with the weight they use. So you have to kind of ask yourself, like, why do I do this? Like, why am I kind of following this pattern, right? And one example I'm going to talk about would just be like using like whole plates. So like never using like the small little plates. So some people, they'll go on each machine, they'll only use like the 45s, like if you're going to like do plate loaded, and they never add on the 5s, the 10s. And I see one specific person, he'll kind of do it like whether it's like a machine loaded row or like a leg press, it's always just like in the big intervals, right? And this is just something you have to ask yourself, like, why do I do this? Like, is it because I am not tracking my weight? Is it because I'm kind of like lazy and I'm only doing what I, feel like doing today? This is something that can hold you back. And I think sometimes people let their ego get in the way thinking, oh, I'm too good for this like little, even like on a cable stack, you can use the 2.5 pound intervals and you can get some progressive overload from that. But a lot of people forget about that. And then even today, there was a gentleman doing like a really interesting superset. It was like very like low quality bench press, like paired with like low quality leg press, right? And you kind of have to ask yourself, like, not everyone knows what to do in the gym, but like, okay, why am I doing this? Like, what's my actual goal? And I'd say a lot of the things that are done within the gym aren't actually in line with like what's going to get you to progress. Instead of doing like one movement and giving it your all, like most people just try to like spend time jumping up and down and just taking no rest and just supersetting everything and just doing a bunch of weird random stuff. So just a random thought, if you are someone who's been in there for a while, or just like, even if you're newer, just try to think about what it is you're doing. And of course, if you have any questions, like we're always happy to help. Just message me on Instagram. I'll give you tips. You see our videos that we make, like we're always happy to support you. It's just a lot of people aren't seeing results because they're doing a bunch of random stuff. And I see this as a very common mistake. So that's what's on my mind. And I'm curious to see what Josh has to say.
Yeah, I think that was really well said. And it's funny, Kyle even said, being in the particular gym we're at, we get a lot of interesting reflections. And I think a big one I really realized is like having guardrails to really stay to your mission and do what you know you need to do. Because it's so easy to get kind of infatuated with like other things that you can do in place of the main thing, the core thing, even to Kyle's point of like the dance and what's going to bring you success. Like we know physique change happens from lifting weights, right? Because you're going to tear your muscles, they're going to grow back stronger, and that's going to improve your body composition. Being on top of your diet is going to help you lose fat, and then cardio is a bonus. It's going to help with the CECO, the calories in, the calories out. But it was even like our friend, someone we know, like our gym has a lot of temptations because it's technically a club. It's a Lifetime Fitness right now. So he said he went to work out, he did a set, it didn't feel good. There's this new recovery area, and it's so like everyone's always in this recovery area now. And he went there and he said he wasn't feeling that, and then he went to the cafe, and then had he not gone to the cafe, you could have went to the pool. So it's tough sometimes, right? Because you can feel good in your head, like being like, I'm getting to the gym. But if you're always like selling yourself short and allowing yourself to take those shortcuts, it's going to be really, really tough, right? So it's really important too, you remember that you're going to get those main things. Don't put the fluff in place of that. Like can't remember if we spoke about it as much last week, but like even the recovery, like it's awesome. It's essential to recover. But if you're cutting half your workout short so you can recover more, that's a net detriment to you. That's not going to help. I think sauna is fantastic. If you're cutting your weightlifting to do that, that's a big detriment. If you're cutting all your workouts and you just start doing classes, you can feel really good that you're always in the gym and you're being active and you're doing things, but it's not going to move your physique change and you towards your compositional goals. And it can kind of cause you to feel like you're doing more than you are. Because I know a lot of people will come to the gym, they'll just sauna or they'll go on the treadmill for 10 minutes and they'll avoid doing that thing that actually will be a mover. And then they'll question why they can't see progress, even if their diet is on point. So it's really important you don't overlook those basics. And if your gym has those temptations, like keep them at bay, keep them in place. It's like not keeping cookies in the house, right? Like say, I'll only go to this pool if I've done my workouts, or I'm going to enjoy this recovery after I've crushed it for the appropriate amount of time I need to be in here and done my full routine. So just be aware of those other things that can seem fun and exciting. And I've used the example of sports before as well. Sports are really fun and they're awesome. They're a great form of cardio. But if you start replacing all your workouts and then you stop going to the gym because you're just playing baseball, and then you do that for 3 weeks and you realize you haven't been in the gym, like that's not going to be a net positive for you.
Yeah, I honestly, like on that note, I just think like asking yourself, why am I doing this, is like just such a great question to ask. And it's easy to just go about our journey and just kind of like keep plugging away and not ask ourselves that question. But like even a client recently, Allison, she was doing her exercises and just taking way too short of a rest, like not enough time to properly recover, not enough time to be able to jump back into it at a point where she could actually lift heavier weights and get progressive overload and all that stuff. And when I asked her a few questions, I realized she did like some classes in the past, right? So this is a mistake that I see a lot of people make. And had I not been able to dig a bit deeper, I wouldn't have realized and been able to kind of give her that support that she needs to then be able to progress. And once I asked, hey, why is it that you're like very antsy, I guess, between sets? And when she explained it, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Now here's a recipe. Like, here's what we're going to do. Set this timer. Here's a set rest period for this time, for this exercise, these types of exercises, sorry. And like, it's just mind blowing. Like for her, she's like, oh my gosh, I never knew this. So when you ask yourself those questions, but then of course, when you have that support, like it makes such a big difference. We have people who come into our program and they've been lifting for years and they're like, oh man, I didn't realize I was doing abs this much and not seeing progress because of this, or like my cardio was too much and my strength training was too little, or I was doing all the wrong stuff. And that's why honestly, like I love what I do, because I'm able to break a lot of beliefs that people have. And if you are someone who's been showing up or trying or like just not seeing the change that you want or that you deserve, just hit that link down below, message us as well if you want on Instagram. We're always happy to help, but you can just fill out for the fall challenge. We'll get you guaranteed results for that link first link down below. And I'd love to just get you guaranteed results. So yeah, that's mainly what's been on my mind.
Awesome. And then who do we have for our client shout out this week?
So this week we actually have Heather, which I'm so excited about. She came in originally wanting to lose 10, 20, maybe a max of 30 pounds. She ended up losing 65 pounds. Maybe it was like a kind of a self-limiting belief originally. Like a lot of times people don't realize, especially if they failed before, they don't realize the capacity and the ability that they actually have. But because she's had one-on-one support, she was able to just succeed. And she didn't get complacent, right? I see some people lose 5, 10, 15 pounds like for a little bit and they're like, okay, I'm good, or I'm going to go do stuff on my own. Like similar to what I was sharing with my quote, like don't forget about the one that you brought to the dance. You know, she has been crushing it with Coach Armando. She lost weight. Okay, let's keep this going. Let's do another phase. And she's 65 pounds down. She is a completely different person. And we are so proud of her because she showed up. She's done so many of our challenges. She's consistently challenged herself every single day and every single week. And what I love is when we ask them our tips, like our clients, they give us about 4 different tips of what's helped them. Her first tip was hire a coach. This will take away so many of the variables. They will write workout plans and nutrition goals specifically for you. They will be there to help you with problems that come up and motivate you along the way. So I love that. And her second tip was just planning your meals and pre-log your food, which we always talk about. She said it only takes minutes to do and will ensure you're hitting your goals and eating nutritious food. So huge shout out to Heather. We shouted her out months ago when she wasn't at this point. She had lost about 30 or 40 pounds. Now she's 65 pounds down. We're so happy for her. And if you're looking to get the results you're striving for, once again, click that link down below and we'll get you guaranteed results.
Yeah, and once again, these are sustainable, long-lasting results. These aren't short-term measures. We're teaching you how to eat for life, how to train for life, how to have balance, still have your favorite foods, no restrictions, and Heather just continues to knock down goals. And I'm sure when she signed up, she couldn't even imagine being 60 plus pounds down. So huge shout out to Heather. Absolutely fantastic. Once again, our challenge starts in a week. There is no better time to join us. So definitely submit an application and we'd love to get you to your goals faster and fully guaranteed. But now we're going to grab back into the mailbag with our second question. And we have, is it possible to lose weight without working out? I primarily just want to lose weight with diet because I'm too busy to go to the gym.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question. And like the first thing I'll say, and I'll address it, yes, absolutely, you can lose weight without going to the gym. Like that is totally fair. And like the truth is the diet is a massive portion of it. Now, of course, a lot of you probably know I'm going to have some things to say about that. And my first question, and similar to what I was saying before about like questioning everything, like I'm a solution oriented person. I'm always looking for a way to succeed. And instead of like kind of saying, oh, I'm too busy. Okay, let's narrow in on your schedule. Let's narrow in on some home workouts. Let's narrow in on something that we can find and make work for you. And that's what we do, especially because we've had so many people come in, like moms with 6 kids or like people who are like always on the road. Like we always find a solution. And that's why like instantly when I hear something like this, I'm like, okay, let's find a solution. Let's figure out a way. So with that, there's a lot of different, even like the other day I was just programming for a few of my clients. They have like lighter dumbbells at home. I'm like, perfect. Like, 30, 40 minute workouts. I'll make it work for you. It's not like perfect, don't get me wrong, but they're still seeing some incredible results. So I really encourage you, if you are looking to lose weight and lose fat, to resistance train. And the main reason is because if you are losing a bunch of weight, and let's say you lose 20 or 30 pounds just through diet, you will end up losing a lot of muscle in the process if you're not really working out, right? And a lot of people who do this, they're not actually happy with their end physique because they ended up losing a lot of their essential tone. I don't love the word, but they end up losing like half muscle and half fat. So they end up just being like pretty unhappy with how they look, how they feel. Yes, they've lost weight. So like, their confidence is up and like they're lighter on their feet. So I don't want to discredit that, but the people who end up resistance training about 3 times a week at least, they end up being significantly happier overall with the results because they've lost less muscle. And let's say this person who has been resistance training, they lost 20 pounds and they lost like 15 pounds of fat. And then like, let's just say a couple pounds of muscle, let's say 5 pounds, they're going to be a lot happier than the person who lost like half and half, right? So to me, I always say if there's a will, there's a way. Long answer, yes, you can lose weight without the gym. Short answer, yes, you can. Long answer, let's find a way to make it work for you. And I'm sure Josh has a lot to say as well.
Yeah, Kyle hit the nail right on the head there. And there's a lot you can do. And if you consider people that kind of starve themselves and aren't able to access food, of course, they're going to lose weight, right? If you're in a deficit, you absolutely lose weight. Now, it's not a good look. If you look starved, you think people that are really sickly skinny. And that's why there's a whole camp of people who really want to put on muscle and see, as Kyle said, I think even a better word than tone is shape. Because when you train your muscles, that's where you begin to see shape. So as a male or a female, right, your waist gets thinner and then you notice you actually have stronger looking legs and your shoulders start to cap out and you get abs and you get a really nice shape towards you and you really start to build a physique as opposed to just being skinny and being a stick. They're two very different looks, and obviously you can maximize that the more you find time for strength training. But to this point of just being too busy for the gym, I would argue no one is too busy for the gym. Like if it's a priority for you, you can absolutely find at least 3 days to be in the gym, as Kyle had said. I'd like to see them at least 4 to 5 days, but at the very least 3 1-hour sessions. And that could come in place of Netflix. That could come in place of maybe some extracurriculars that aren't beneficial. Maybe that comes from waking up early. I assure you, anyone could find 3 hours in the week. And if you're biting back on that, like just be really self-honest with you. And if you truly don't have time, you can write into the show and you can show me in a full itinerary of the second you wake up to the second you go to bed for every day of the week. If there's not 3 hours in there, like I'd be truthfully amazed, because we all have those moments where we're maybe scrolling or we're doing nothing or we're doing things that aren't as productive or we're watching a lot of TV. Like sometimes you got to cut some of that extra fluff and actually take care of yourself. And you can also even go a step further and you can work 2 into 1. You could have the gym partially be a socialization time or a learning time. You could work out with a friend. You could listen to a podcast in the gym. Like there's a lot of different benefits where you can actually do that. And taking care of your physique, keeping yourself healthy, having some time to think is very therapeutic. That's why there's a lot of like the gym, the weights are my therapy type things, because you're actively exerting so much effort, being clear, you're away from the noise of the rest of the world, and crafting out that time is so essential. And that's really going to cause you to have a better look, as Kyle had said, because you want to make sure you're losing weight, but you still have muscular tone and it all looks nice and you just don't look saggy and flabby. So of course it's possible. And I would rather someone just fix their diet and not go to the gym than do neither. But naturally it's going to be better if you can put these hand in hand. And as you do them hand in hand, it becomes an incredible force. And as you put on more muscle and you train harder, you burn more calories, have more muscle, so you can actually evidently eat more food as well. And it actually makes the process net that much better. And you'll notice too, even if it's scary, it's something you're not comfortable with, you will come to love it and you will see some progress.
Yeah, and like I always say, you make time for what the things that you prioritize, right? And it's hard for a lot of people to hear, but it is really, really true. I think for some people, the reason they don't do it and they kind of make those excuses is they don't see the value. And that's where like we try to explain things to help you understand, because even if you do lose weight and you start to see it go down and you're not going to the gym, you just think, oh, this is right. Like, this is what I'm doing. That's all good. But once you start to realize the value of strength training and the importance of resistance training and lifting weights for longevity, for like living longer, for just like being stronger into your day-to-day life, I think that's where you can start to kind of understand it more. But I do find that when I have this conversation with some people, like there's some that are just like, oh, I don't need it. Like, and they don't understand the value, but then there's some who just like really end up making tons of excuses. So I think it's important to educate yourself on that and hopefully take some of the things we said like as the importance of it, and then like really make it a priority and say, you know what, like this is going to help me in every way of my journey. Right. So yeah, hopefully that makes sense. And that was a fantastic question. I'm glad it was asked.
All right, and the last question, the age-old question, does heavy lifting actually make you bulky? Some girls are just too built for me, and I've been hesitant to up my weights because I don't want to look that way.
Yeah, this is like one of the most common myths, I'd say, and I do believe it's still going around. I mean, I wish it just like made me bulky right away. Like I've been in the gym over 10 years now, and you know, like people think that the second they pick up a heavier dumbbell, like they're going to turn into a bodybuilder, but that is not true at all. Now, like what I will say is if you are someone in a heavy surplus and you're eating a lot more like than you should be, and you're like consistently resistance training, you might be unhappy with the overall bulk that you get from it. But yeah, the truth is, like, as we've shared kind of shape, I guess you could say shape, giving you shape like Josh said, or toning or tightening, like resistance training and overall lifting weights and lifting heavier weights, like really gives you that amazing tight and toned and great shape physique that you're striving for. Now, the biggest caveat is going to be the nutrition, and this is where it gets amazing. Like if you are around maintenance, it'll do great things for you. If you're like in a deficit, so you're eating less than you're burning while resistance training, that's where like you'll be amazed at how your muscles just start to look. Once again, not bulky, not turning into a bodybuilder, but if you're obviously eating like way more than you should, like yeah, you'll start to get a bit bulkier. The other thing I'm gonna have to say is like, when you do see some of these people who are like truly bulky, there actually are a lot of people on steroids. I'm not pointing fingers, but like there are some people, like there's a myth, like even guys, like you'll see guys and some girls are like, oh, that person's way too bulky. Like I don't want ever want to get like them, but they're just this like bodybuilder who's been doing it for like 10, 15 years. They step on stage, they take a little bit of vitamin S, they get some help from it. And even females, there's actually a good chunk of them that are doing that. And that's where I think some people will see some of these people and be like, oh, they're like way too big, and like, you know, I see them lifting heavier weights and like I'm gonna get like that. But I promise you that's not how it works. And yeah, I'm sure Josh has a good amount of stuff to say as well.
Yeah, and like you won't radically transform to a build that's not you. If you're like a girl, like often it'll be really slim girls that like being slimmer and skinnier, and maybe they put on a bit of weight, they want to lose a little bit of fat, and so they're like 5-10 pounds up, and they'll be like, I don't want to look like this other person. Like if you're a tall skinny person, you're not radically going to look like a muscular little bodybuilder, right? If you're a shorter stockier person, you don't lose fat and you put on muscle, maybe that'll build into a look you don't want, but it takes quite a lot to put on muscle. So you have to understand, like, improving your shape in your body will only improve your shape in your body for how you already look. Like you can't just radically change your entire body type, and that's what's hard. Like I said, if you're someone who's very tall and slender, it's going to be very hard to have this really extreme pear-shaped look all of a sudden. Like you're gonna have to work so hard to build out your glutes, and you still will never have that to someone who just naturally has wider set hips and is perhaps shorter. And just the same, like if you're a shorter, stockier build, it's going to be hard for you just to look ultra thin and tall, like just from lifting. Like these are more of like your actual build as a human, right? And obviously you can just work around that. But if everyone could look super bulky and jacked, like they would just naturally pick up a weight, and that would be the case. And usually, like Kyle said, they'll point to one specific person who they feel got too jacked or is too big or whatever it is. And most often that person will already have really dominant XYZ genetics, or they'll really heavily train an area. And this is where obviously like being on an optimized routine is key, because if you like really don't want a muscular upper body and you just want to have a good shape there, you don't need to overdevelop it. Like you don't need to be hitting chest 3 times a week. You don't need to be doing shoulders 3 times a week. Like you want to build out a physique that makes sense for you and towards your goals. And that's something we absolutely help out with. And with the challenge just 1 week away, like this is your chance to actually have like a bespoke done for you program, nutrition program, everything. It's like buying a suit off the rack. Like, it's not going to fit me right. Like, I have different builds than Kyle, and it's hard to get something generically made for you. Whereas when you have a coach on your side and I know your exact goals of where you want to be, how you eat, how much time you can put in the gym, I can really curate something custom made for you, and it's just going to fit that much better. You're going to have more confidence in it. And as you see the progress, you're not going to feel like you're going the wrong direction at all, because people, I think, will get scared, they'll get muscular, they'll stop lifting and they'll lose all the benefits of it, and they'll pick it up later when they've wasted so many good years of training. So you want to avoid that. You want to get help on your side. All the best athletes have a coach. If you want to be the best version of yourself, you should have a coach. So with the challenge just a week away, do not miss out. It is the first link in the description of this episode. It's a great opportunity to get started. Our biggest challenge yet. And like, let's make this fall phenomenal, especially as we push into winter and the new year. Like, now is your time to build your best body. So go ahead, apply, join us. And I look forward to having you in for that. But I want to thank you for tuning in today. It really means a lot. If you love this episode, as always, share it. Make sure you're following the show, all that great stuff. But we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.